Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your pay-per-view from Payback, WWE from Sunday night. And here's the results. The pre-show had Josh Matthews, Big Show, R-Truth, and Cody Rhodes were at the pre-show table. Hyping the show as Damien Sandow made his way to the ring for the kickoff match. Big Show said one of the beautiful things about having an ironclad contract is getting to do what he wants, when he wants. And Michael Coleslaw, JBL, and Jerry Lawler checked in from ringside as the broadcast team. And the only match on the pre-show, Sheamus versus Damien Sandow. Sheamus received a big pop during his entrance. Sandow was aggressively early with a few headbutts. Sheamus came back with a battering ram, shoulder block off the second rope for a close 2 count. Sheamus went for his forearm shots over the ropes, but Sandow slips out. Sheamus went after Sandow at ringside, but ended up being run into the ring post. Sandow followed up with a big boot to the side of the face and then pulled himself under the bottom rope from the floor to kick Sheamus again. Back inside the ring, Sheamus fired back with punches and then performed a snap mare off the second rope. Sandow regained control and dropped an elbow on Sheamus and got a 2 count as they went for an internet commercial. Yeah, they actually had a Payback commercial during the match. We get I get the strategy, but I'm quite confident that everyone watching the free preview is well aware of the pay-per-view and how to order it, or certainly will be by the time the show is over, or even without the commercial, just the same way they did the application. And Lawler put over Sandow's newfound aggressiveness as he worked over Sheamus at 6 minutes 45 seconds in the match. Sheamus caught Sandow on the ring apron and delivered the forearm shots as the fans counted along. And yes, they can count to 10. Sandow mounted another comeback and performed a school neck breaker for while Sheamus' legs were caught up in the ropes. Sandow and Sheamus jockeyed for position, and Sandow got the better of it before performing his neck breaker for a 2 count that some fans counted along with, so they could only count to 2. Sheamus was seated on the ropes when Sandow flipped him over by the arm into the ring. Sheamus started his big comeback and set up for the finisher as he awaited. There were some boos. Sheamus hit the brogue kick on Sandow and pinned him. And the cheering fans drowned out the booing fans. And the match lasted 10 minutes 45 seconds. The best free preview match WWE has had since they started the online version. The end result of the babyface going over was the same, but it really was good to see Sandow get in some offense, as he did. Just being fair to show some of his power, or whatever he's got. It seemed like a portion of the crowd thought that he was going to win the match when they counted along with one of his pin attempts. 1, 2, end of it. Sounds like the count from the Muppet Show. 1, 2. And Sheamus was well over with the masses. But some of the adult males were vocal in booing him at one point. And the feed cut right after the match concluded. But refreshed, brought it back. So, thus was my internet showing of the pre-show and the entire, pay-per-view on the thing, but the last hour was very good internet showing of it. And then when the feed came back, a video focused on the 3 Stages of Hell match. The panel discussed the 3 Stages of Hell. Cody and Truth picked Ryback for their favorites, and Show getting to the top of the mountain is easy, but staying there is difficult. Show predicted that Ryback would go out in the ambulance, and Ryback would remain champion. How can Ryback remain champion if he's never champion to begin with? So if getting to the top is easy, then shouldn't Ryback win the match and then lose the title quickly? Anyway, I still look the panel for Matt on the pre-show, though I can't stress enough how much I wish they would include this as part of the pay-per-view feed rather than having a taped preview show aired on the pay-per-view channel. Video recapping the CM Punk versus Chris Jericho feud, and the panel spoke one more time and turned things over to ringside for the broadcast team for the final hype to close the show. And then to start off the show, a Chicago themed video opened the show, including the Cubs and the Chicago Blackhawks and what have you all. And it started off with CM Punk. Start off with The Miz versus Wade Barrett versus Curtis Axel. My prediction was Curtis Axel winning the Intercontinental Championship, and my prediction was correct. And this was a triple threat for the Intercontinental title. Axel got tossed to ringside by Miz, then hung out at ringside by with Heyman while they talked. And Miz and Barrett wrestled inside the ring. Miz slid through the ropes and ended up throwing Axel back inside. 7 minutes, 30 seconds in, Barrett hits and wins the chains on Miz and covered him, but Axel broke it up. Barrett sets up Axel for the wasteland, but Axel slips out and set up Barrett for the perfect plex and went for the cover. The adult males popped for the perfect plex and booed when Miz broke up the pin attempt. Miz hit skull-crushing finale on Axel, but Barrett broke it up. Well, at 10 minutes, 15 seconds in, Miz put Barrett in figure 4 while Axel was at ringside. Barrett inches way towards the ropes, but Miz pulled him back in the center of the ring. Axel recovered and then covered Barrett for the 3 count while Miz still had the figure 4 locked in. The crowd popped for the title change. Axel looked emotional when he looked at the belt and then looked up to the heavens. The crowd cheered as Heyman lifted Axel's arm. And the match took 10 minutes, 35 seconds out of our lives for Axel's championship win. Congratulations, Curtis Joe Hennig Axel. Wow, a much better match than I thought anyone expected it to be. Didn't even do it justice in recapping it because the action was so fast-paced and enjoyable. This wasn't the usual formula with one guy at ringside selling while the other 2 worked inside the ring. It happened at times, but they did a great job of coming up with the 3-man spots, and they had the timing down pat. Axel winning the Intercontinental title on Father's Day was a cool moment for longtime fans. He's a heel, and that's not the reaction you normally want to create, but I don't think it's anything that will stick. Rather, it was a live crowd cheering the historical element of it and popping for a title change all at the same time. A Mark Henry video aired to promote his return to Raw. Backstage, Axel and Heyman were celebrating and bumped into a straight-faced Triple H backstage. Vince McMahon showed up and said Triple H versus Curtis Axel on Raw. Feeling it? Vince asked Axel. Triple H said, no, not feeling it one bit, he said. Coleslaw sent the footage of Caitlyn being humiliated by Big E Langston and AJ from Raw. Match number 2, Caitlyn versus AJ Lee. This was a surprise title change for me as Big E Langston was at ringside. In AJ's corner for the WWE Divas Championship. AJ blew a kiss at Caitlyn after the bell rang to start the match. Caitlyn went right after AJ aggressively and threw her over the Spanish announce table on the floor. Wow, a woman's table bump. AJ slowed Caitlyn down by catching her in the face with a kick through the ropes. 7 minutes, 15 seconds in. This is the longest Divas match in a long time so far. As AJ dove off the ropes and was caught by Caitlyn. She tried to spin her around into a side slam, but AJ countered into a Black Widow. Very cool spot as Caitlyn powered out of the Black Widow and followed up with a spear. She had Lee down for the count, but she picked her up, looked at her, and blew her a kiss. Caitlyn covered Lee, but AJ kicks out. 9 minutes in, Caitlyn charged at AJ, who pulled herself onto the top rope. Caitlyn crashed hard into the corner, and Lee applied the Black Widow again. Caitlyn tried to power out again, but Lee held her foot around her neck. And Caitlyn eventually tapped out. Caitlyn cried after the match, and the crowd chanted, "You tapped out," at her. She broke down in the aisle. Layla came out and consoled her. The crowd let out a big "aw," very funny segment. AJ Lee defeated Caitlyn by submission to win the Divas Championship in 10 minutes exactly. JBL was quick to point out that Caitlyn only had herself to blame because she had her beat, but opted to blow her a kiss instead of pinning her. The middle portion of the match was a little slow and lacked heat. But the action down the stretch was really good. Caitlyn mustered up real tears afterwards. The crowd was pretty merciless with the silly tap-out chant, though it was pretty comical. I was worried they were going to kill off the Black Widow forever by having Caitlyn escape it again to win a match. Instead, it was laid out well, and Caitlyn looking strong enough to get out of the hole once, but failing the second time. It finally feels like we have a real Divas feud going on. Backstage segment, Caitlyn was controlled by Layla, Alicia Fox, and Natalya. A commercial aired for Money in the Bank pay-per-view. For whatever it's worth, Rey Mysterio and Christian were both shown in the video. So that hypes the returning Christian as he does return on Raw, as well as Mark Henry's advertised showing and special announcement. We'll find out on the Raw episode later on. The pre-show panel of Josh Matthews, Big Show, R-Truth, and Cody Rhodes spoke about the two title changes. A Wyatt family video aired. Match number 3, got Dean Ambrose versus Kane for the U.S. Championship. My feed went out during this match. About halfway through the match is when my internet feed went out for the pay-per-view. Ambrose targeted Kane's left knee during the match early and often. The action was slow-paced as Kane sold for most of the first 7 minutes. Ambrose went to the ropes and yelled, "Old school!" Kane flung him down to the mat and threw some punches, running clotheslines and a side slam to get a 2 count. Ambrose clotheslined Kane over the top rope, but Kane then came right back with a boot that knocked Ambrose to the floor. Ambrose slapped Kane, who came right back with an uppercut. Kane tore the Spanish broadcast table apart. Ambrose DDT'd Kane on the floor. Ambrose rolled back inside the ring, and the referee counted Kane out. But to me, it wasn't much of a... It's the same old with Dean Ambrose. His matches count out and win. So the match took 9 minutes 35 seconds out of our lives for Ambrose to retain the U.S. Championship. A little more entertaining than a Raw match, but still pretty slow paced. RVD package aired, hyping his return for Money in the Bank, as my internet feed has not came back. And when I was reading the posting of the chat that was going on the website that I was getting my pay-per-view. I had to go between the two of them. In the last hour, I caught both feeds at the same time. They were actually simultaneous. Wow, surprising considering that Triple H had been talking negatively to co-workers about the prospects of bringing RVD back into the fold. A smokescreen, anyway. It's a nice hook for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Given RVD's popularity, his style, and because of the event takes place in ECW country in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, very curious to see whether RVD is returning to the active roster or just doing a one-off for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Match number 4, Dolph Ziggler with AJ Lee and Big E Langston. I myself was thinking that Dolph Ziggler was returning way too soon, but I believe he had to do this because of his 30-day stipulation of being a champion you must defend, or he would have been stripped. So they had him lose to Alberto Del Rio during this match. Well, Lillian Garcia delivered the in-ring introductions for the world title match here. There was a loud chant for Ziggler to start the match. Thus, they've been doing this for about a week or so now. As Lillian introduces the announcer for Alberto Del Rio, Ricardo Rodriguez. As he introduces Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight title. Ziggler slammed Ziggler's head into the announcer table a couple of times. Big E Langston got in Del Rio's face. Del Rio shoved Langston, who responded by shoving Del Rio into the ground. The referee stepped in and ordered Langston to head backstage. Later, Dolph applied the sleeper hold on Del Rio, escaped the hold, and then kicked Ziggler in the head. Del Rio placed Ziggler on the second rope and fired shots to his kidneys, and then followed up with a big punch to the back of Ziggler's head. Del Rio set up for another move and mugged for the crowd, giving Dolph time to counter. with a neck breaker for a 2 count. JBL said the referee may want to step in for Ziggler's help. Ziggler fired up and performed a famouser that looked really poor. Fortunately, it wasn't the finish. As Del Rio kicked out at 2, the adult males continued to chant for Ziggler. Del Rio performed an inverted superplex for a good near fall. Coleslaw said that Ziggler kicking out and had to be on pure instinct. JBL said it was gutsy performance by Ziggler. With Ziggler on the floor, Del Rio caught him with a kick. The trainer stepped in with a light and shined it in Ziggler's eyes. Del Rio caught Ziggler with another kick to the head. Back inside the ring, Del Rio performed yet another kick to the back of Dolph's head and covered him. Dolph kicked out at 2 count and the crowd popped. Well, 13 minutes, 10 seconds in, Del Rio got cocky and he picked up Ziggler, performed a zigzag out of nowhere for a 2 count for Ziggler. Del Rio came back with a super kick to the head of the kneeling Ziggler and pinned him clean. There was a loud Ziggler chant afterwards. AJ looked concerned and disappointed as Dolph held his head and struggled to walk backstage. I myself was, during this match, the internet feed came back on, and I was thinking that AJ was about to turn on Dolph and push him to the side, but they didn't do that. And the match took 13 minutes, 55 seconds out of our lives. So we got another new champion in Alberto Del Rio. Congratulations, Del Rio. And since his championship win, I expected a heel turn and wait for Raw to see if that actually happened. So much for the double turn in the CM Punk match, as it appears we get it here instead. I'm still waiting on that to happen on Raw as well. What babyface targets the head of a concussed opponent and delivers repeated kick? The crowd booed Del Rio, but the adult male Ziggler fans were booing him anyways. The announcers didn't really turn on Del Rio as much as the live crowd did, but Ziggler was clearly made out to be sympathetic. A surprising and interesting development. The panel spoke about the title change briefly. Alberto Del Rio cut a promo backstage while standing on the stage, actually, with Ricardo applauding him. Actually, Ricardo looked in dismay and was like, was that actually supposed to happen? Didn't believe that. He was like, okay. And Del Rio asked the fans for their support. They booed him. Del Rio said the fans all know he is one of the best in the business. Del Rio said that he deserves to be their champion. He asked the fans to give it up for him one more time. Ricardo did the big Del Rio introduction line over with boos from the fans. Del Rio never clicked as a babyface the way WWE wanted him to, so I guess the heel turn. Actually, the fans were actually cheering for him lately, and I knew once he won the championship, there was going to be a heel turn, and that's your heel turn right there for Del Rio. I was hoping for a lengthy title reign from him this time, actually from Ziggler, but due to his concussion, he is definitely a sympathetic figure with a head trauma issues costing him the title, and he could be a very good babyface. This is certainly the most newsworthy first half of a pay-per-view that we've seen in a long time. Then they set up the videos for the Chris Jericho versus CM Punk match. Leading up to the pay-per-view, Chris Jericho makes his highlighted jacket. He was booed once his music stopped and playing to the crowd as he broke up in a loud CM Punk chant. The crowd popped when Punk walked onto the stage with his hoodie pulled over his head and looked like a new jacket with Paul Heyman by his side. Heyman held out his watch. Punk checked it, then yelled, "It's clobbering time!" No new music for Punk, but still cultural personality. Punk, who had the Wolverine facial hair going, played to the crowd, and he still supported it on Raw. Punk wore Chicago Blackhawks logos on his trunk and boots. CM Punk versus Jericho. The bell rang as CM Punk chant continued. The camera closed in on Punk, who looked right into the camera before locking up with Jericho. The crowd cheered Punk's offense and they booed Jericho when he shoulder blocked Punk to the mat. Jericho flashed a smile to the crowd. 9 minutes in, Punk went for the Bulldog, but Jericho pushed him off and followed up with a Lion's Hawk for the win. Wow. I must have missed that. I was thinking Punk won the match because they were playing his music on the thing, on the pay-per-view. Heyman looked frustrated and a bit concerned at ringside. Punk came back with a GTS attempt, but Jericho elbowed out of it and countered with the walls of Jericho. No! Heyman yelled at ringside repeatedly. It's hard to buy into Jericho's offense when you know Punk could just pop the blades out of his fist and stab him through the chest whenever he wants to. Hashtag Wolverine for that. Punk reached up and grabbed Jericho by his head and eventually applied the Anaconda device. Punk motioned for the GTS, went for the move and said, Black Hawks in 7. Jericho went for Zedno Chara on his ass. He avoided the GTS and coming back with a code breaker for a 2 count. Later, Punk connected with a top rope elbow drop and signaled for the GTS. Punk hoisted up Jericho for his finisher and connected with the move, but Jericho kicked out at the last moment. The live crowd really thought that was the finish. And one more time, chant broke out. Punk went for the move again, but Jericho elbowed out. Jericho went for the code breaker, but Punk pushed him off and then closed on them over the top. Punk performed a suicide dive. The fans in front of the Punk slapped their hands and on the barricade, Ring of Honor style, and another Punk chant broke out. Punk rolled Jericho back into the ring at 17 minutes 30 seconds in. Punk went to the ropes and leapt off for a move, but Jericho caught him with a code breaker on the way down in an awesome spot. Jericho covered Punk, who kicked out at 2. Jericho chant started, this is awesome, and they were right. Well, 20 minutes in, Jericho applied the walls of Jericho on Punk in the middle of the ring. The crowd chanted for Punk, and Heyman begged him not to tap. While showing concern at ringside, Punk took repeated shots at Jericho's knee and eventually broke out of the hold. Though Jericho held on to Punk's ankle, Punk caught Jericho with repeated shots again and then followed up with a GTS that knocked Jericho into the corner. And a second one that put him down for the 1, 2, 3. So CM Punk defeated Jericho 21 minutes 30 seconds. Punk looked tanned, rested, and whatever the opposite of rusty is. They had a hell of a match with believable near falls for both men. In fact, the Jericho near falls were good enough to make me wonder a couple of times whether the big surprise would be that Punk came up short in his hometown. That's very impressive considering I thought the only way Jericho would win is if there was a double turn. The live crowd was red hot and the match was absolute blast. We're almost at the top of the second hour and we'll still have the tag title match and the 3 Stages of Hell main event match. After Punk and Heyman headed to the back, the Shield music hit quickly. Ambrose came out with the tag champions and sent them on their way. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton for the WWE Tag Team titles. Rollins got the better of Bryan early, which gave the crowd a chance to catch their breath. Bryan tagged in Orton at 3 minutes. He performed a hanging DDT on Reigns. It didn't get the type of reaction it normally would. The Hills regained control and isolated Orton in their corner as the crowd was still in hangover mode. Then they did pep up with a loud RVD chant at 6 minutes in. The crowd came back to life when Bryan took the hot tag and kicked into his offensive flurry of running drop kicks and kicks at 8 minutes 50 seconds in. A short time later, Bryan went for the suicide dive on both opponents, but they moved and Bryan hit Orton with a dive instead. Orton recovered and Bryan ended up taking a spear from Reigns, but Orton dropped him with an RKO. Rollins knocked Orton to the floor, then followed up with a running curb stomp on Bryan and pinned him. Very similar to the SmackDown match, in my opinion. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns defeated Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton to retain the tag team titles at 12 minutes 15 seconds. Orton basically sacrificed himself, pulling Bryan into the spear. So look for that to be an issue on TV for this week, because Orton he actually dragged Bryan one full circle and right into the spear. And shortly after that, his opponent comes back in the ring and knocks him out of the ring, and that sets up the pinfall victory for the tag team champions. By the way, at the urging of a few readers, I went back and watched the post-match involving Punk and Heyman again. Heyman was supportive, and then Punk said something that made Heyman's facial expression change. Heyman went back to applauding, then shot him a serious look again. This is another one that they could file up on this week. And my suspicion is the face turn for Punk, as you will see on Raw coming up. The commercial aired for fatherhood.gov. The announcer set up a video package for the 3 Stages of Hell match. Yes, an actual taxpayer funded an ad campaign designed to tell viewers to be good fathers. I wonder if Representative Betty McCollum is okay with tax money being spent to tell us low-life wrestling fans not to be shitty fathers, since she was opposed to pro wrestling companies getting ad money from the National Guard. Justin Roberts introduces the main event and explains the rules of each fall. He said 30 men would be at ringside for the lumberjack match, which I didn't see. My feed was going in and out at that point, going back and forth. There would be a tables match, so the first fall I didn't get to see, so I'm giving you the results from that match here, and it was Ryback winning the lumberjack, followed by the ambulance match was the third match. Lumberjacks included a lot of guys who had not worked the show, including 3MB, Great Khali, Primo, Epico, Tons of Funk, Yoshitatu, Zack Ryder, Justin Gabriel, and some who did it, including Sheamus and Curtis Axel. Cena received a lot of boos, but he also had some of the younger fans in the building. And my daughter was actually watching the pay-per-view as well, playing with her little neighbor. And I told her that her favorite wrestler was on. So you can't see me. Ryback was booed almost unanimously when Roberts introduced him. The mixed reaction for Cena was roughly 70-30 in favor of the boos. Then your main event was match number 7, John Cena versus Ryback in the 3 Stages of Hell match for the WWE Championship. Ryback placed Cena in a side headlock. He gave Cena a chance to redo his belt. Ryback threw Cena outside the ring to the heel side. They took a few shots at him and then threw him back inside the ring, while Miz and the other babyfaces jawed at him. Ryback told everyone he rules, and then they threw Cena to the heels again. Another RVD chat broke out. Cena threw Ryback to the heel side again, and then they let him back inside the ring without any issues, even though Ryback was beating up 3MB more over than Cena ever has. Ryback said it was time to finish the match. Cena picked him up and dropped him over the top rope onto the floor. Ryback shoved a wrestler, and a big brawl broke out on the floor. Cena stumbled as he climbed to the ropes, but once again regained his footing. He performed a big dive onto everyone on the floor. Most of the wrestlers fell down like bowling pins in a comical moment. Back inside the ring, Cena applied the STF. Ryback got out of it and shell-shocked Cena and scored a clean pin for fall number 1. And that took 7 minutes 30 seconds into the first fall. If you have a DVR, go back right now and watch Sin Cara from the second angle they showed during the replay of Cena's big dive off the rope, off the top. It's a laugh out loud funny to watch his ultra delaying fall. Coleslaw said Ryback would win the WWE Championship if he put Cena through a table. The Lumberjacks disappeared. As they were sent to the back, Ryback set up a table and went for the powerbomb through a table, but Cena avoided it. Ryback came back with a spear. Obligatory Goldberg chant started and faded quickly. Ryback pressed Cena and was about to slam him through the table, but Cena slipped out and Cena hoisted him up for the adjustment. Ryback reached out and flipped the table over to avoid being put through it. Coleslaw said we learned a lot about Ryback from that table flipping. Ryback avoided the attitude adjustment and went back onto the offense. Ryback picked up the ring steps and slammed them into Cena's head. He threw the stairs at Cena, who moved, causing the stairs to crash through the table in the corner. Cena came back with a slamming Ryback down and then ramming the stairs into his head. Cena went to ringside and set a table inside the ring. As Cena was setting up the table, Ryback picked up the stairs and struck Cena with them. He tried to slam the stairs down on Cena, but Cena moved and the stairs crashed through the second table. Ryback threw the stairs at Cena, who moved, causing the stairs to fly into the entrance aisle. 15 minutes in, Ryback stood in the corner and said, "Meat hook engaged." He called Cena with a meat hook clothesline. Ryback went to ringside and set up another table inside the ring. Cena came back with an attitude adjustment and drove Ryback through the table. So, second fall goes to Cena at 16 minutes. Ryback popped up quickly after taking the attitude adjustment through the table. Ryback took Cena to ringside and powerbombed him through the Cole, JBL, and Lawler broadcast table. Ryback looked down at Cena and told him, "It's only going to get worse from there." Insert your own joke there. There were dueling chants. Let's go Cena. Cena sucks. And once Ryback got Cena back inside the ring, they rang the bell to officially start the ambulance match. Okay, Ryback picked up Cena and carried him over toward the ambulance. Cena slips away and rammed Ryback into the ambulance. Cena opened the side door, pulled out a crutch. Ryback swung at Cena, who ducked, and Ryback put his hand through the passenger side window. Where are the Goldberg chants when you really need them? As my internet feed goes out briefly, comes back and is all speeding up. With the driver's side door open, Cena whips Ryback into it, and it came off of its hinges. Cena picks up the door and rammed it into Ryback. Cena tried to force Ryback into the ambulance through the driver's side door. Ryback's elbow hit the horn a couple of times. Ryback pulled the side panel off the ambulance and struck Cena with it a couple of times. Cena went to the top of the ambulance and tore the flasher lights off and struck Ryback with them. Ryback stood up and grabbed the crutch that Cena pulled out earlier. Ryback went to the top of the ambulance where Cena took the crutch and slammed it over Ryback's head. Cena performed attitude adjustment on the roof of the ambulance. Ryback apparently crashed through the roof of the ambulance, even though they didn't have a good shot of it. As Cena held up his hands in victory, the match was said over, and the winner and still champion at 24 minutes 35 seconds, John Cena. Cena went to the ring to celebrate his championship win, retaining as the ambulance siren played. Scott Steiner did not come out. They replayed the finish from a better angle, and it looked much cooler. The ambulance left the arena with Ryback inside, leaving Cena to continue celebrating the ring. Cena headed towards the back, looked into the camera, and talked about getting Payback to close the show. Either the ambulance was a Yugo, or they didn't make the ambulance like they used to. Okay, so I've never actually fought anyone in or around an ambulance, but they tore that thing apart with ease, and the roof caved in real quickly. Either the production truck is guilty of a lousy live shot, or they were worried it wouldn't look good when Ryback crashed through it. And the main event felt like the flattest match of the night. They worked hard, but the rest of the show was simply more entertaining. Overall, the first 2 hours of the pay-per-view was a blast. And you should order a replay if you're considering to do so. The last hour wasn't as strong and the Raw match was headlined into the show. They had no trouble putting Cena in the main event slot when Punk was champion. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't have put Punk or versus Jericho as the main event. Should have been headlined here. And that closes my report for Payback.